Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the Quantum Coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of the Badass Manifester podcast. I am smiling from ear to ear because I just had the most incredible interview with the boss babe herself, Natalie Ellis, who also just so happens to be my mentor. I have been in Natalie's 12-month mastermind called CEO Mama, and I actually just re-signed because it's that freaking good. I can't wait for you to listen to this episode because some of you may be brand new to Natalie and her energy is just so beautiful. She speaks from her heart and she tells the truth. She tells her truth. And it is this code that she delivers through what she's saying that is so powerful and so potent. And I know you're going to freaking love today's episode. It's so relatable, yet inspirational for someone like her who is speaking, who has an 8-figure business and helps so many people. She shares so vulnerably about her journey and the last year of becoming a mother and how that's really transformed her into this whole new identity where she had to ask herself the deepest question she's ever asked herself and really had to separate herself from her own success. Like, who am I without my business? And she shares so vulnerably about these deep questions she's had to ask herself around success, such as, when is enough good enough? That is something I've asked myself so many different times on my own personal journey. So hearing it from my mentor, it just hit different. She shares about navigating growth in such a beautiful way. I mean, she's someone who is a perfect example of, you could be a mom, you could be a CEO. She's a serial entrepreneur. She's an investor in many businesses. And Natalie lives by the belief that you can build this wildly successful freedom-based business that truly supports you without having to sacrifice the things that you care about most in life. In this episode, she really helped me, and I hope you, redefine what success truly looks like and feels like in your life. And hopefully will give you this profound shift and code that you need to really integrate what she's saying into your life, because it is possible for all of us. And I feel so blessed to have her as one of my mentors. And I highly recommend to get in her world. Her programs over deliver, her containers are so potent and so safe. And I have expanded so much in my business, in my motherhood, in my relationships, in my life, because of the space that she has held for me personally and the community that we've cultivated inside of CEO Mama. So I am such a fangirl and I can't wait for you to listen to this episode. Without further ado, enjoy today's episode with Natalie Ellis. I am so excited that you're here. Thank you so much.
I'm so excited about this.
You're the best. I have learned so much from you, and I can't wait for my community to learn from you as well.
You're the best student also because you just pay so much attention when you think something's going to work for you. Like, you have that intuition of like, oh yeah, this is going to work for me. And you just go do it and execute with so much excellence. Like, I'm obsessed. So good.
Thank
So
you.
anyone listening, like, you need more of your vibes. Like, so good. Ashley is crushing it.
Thank you so much. And largely from everything that I'm learning from Natalie, being in CEO Mama, your mastermind, your container, your energy, the community that you've cultivated, I'm obsessed. And it's funny because I've always known Boss Babe, right? Boss Babe is a widely recognized, you're like a household name for real. And we've heard your origin stories. And obviously, you and your company are massively successful and you help others become massively successful. Hi. And when I think of Boss Babe and when I've thought of it in the past, it's like this pink, peachy, big, beautiful, curated brand with millions of followers. And it seems like you have it all figured out. And I really want to dig into that today because I want to know what those things are that nobody knows about, what have happened to get to, for you to get to where you are, right? And we're going to dive into like identities that you've had to shatter, belief systems that you've had to really break through in order to be who you are and also be as successful as you are, helping the amount of people that you are, because that doesn't just happen overnight. Your capacity has grown over time. So I'm just curious to kick off. Looking back at the Natalie who founded Boss Babe, what do you wish she knew then that you know now?
Such a good question. I think she had this idea that when you get to a certain stage in revenue or your team gets to a certain size, everything becomes easy. You can do less, you can step back, problems go away. And that's really not the case at all. I think it can be very tempting to look at all of these brands online, see the highlight reel, and think they've got everything together. And it's really not the case at all. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to build back then, to be totally honest with you. But really, Boss Babe took on such a life of its own and grew faster than I could ever have imagined. And I didn't really know that I had to take a breath and step back and get really intentional about what I was building. I thought I could just be taken on this magic carpet ride and I'd end up exactly where I was meant to be, which, yes, to some extent. And there have had to be many times along the way where I've put the brakes on. I've had to step back and ask myself, is this still in alignment with who I am? Or is
Mm,
this in alignment with who I am now? And what do I need to pivot or change to make it work for me? Because again, we see these blueprints from other entrepreneurs and other businesses who are doing it in a certain way, right? Okay, you grow revenue, so you grow team, and then you keep making those goals even bigger and bigger and bigger. And ultimately, you like playing this game of feeding a hungry ghost and just setting the goalposts higher and higher so you can keep hitting these arbitrary goals. And
mm,
I did that until I realized it wasn't working for me. And I got really, really intentional about what size company do I want to build? Is it okay not to grow this year? Is it okay to do this with a lean team? And just asking myself those questions. And I don't think when I first founded the company, I had the confidence to do that I have now. Like I have the confidence now to say, like last year, I don't want to grow this year, which to some business owners might be like, wow, you're crazy. But to business owners, I think that understand freedom and understand living your way, your living your life intentionally and having your business fit into that will understand that. But I didn't at the time. So many lessons, that being a big one.
wow, that is huge. And even just to hear you say, it's okay, I don't need to grow this year, or it's okay to have a down year, or giving yourself permission to reevaluate what's actually in alignment and true for you at this point in your timeline in your life is a huge permission slip for people listening. Even for me, because I always feel like I have to double what I did last year at least. Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. It's interesting because when I had Noemi, I had such a realization of like, I have everything I ever wanted. I'm living the life I wanted to live. I've got more than enough money in the bank. My business is doing really, really well. I feel like I have everything I ever wanted. What am I still chasing? And at what detriment? And
Mm,
so last year, you already know I almost walked away from the business. I resigned as CEO. I was ready to sell, and it all ended up flipping where I ended up buying the business, but I still wasn't planning on running it the way that I had been in the past. I knew that didn't work for me. And last year, I really couldn't be bothered to do a ton of launches. I just really couldn't. And I wanted to restructure. I wanted to stop certain programs so I wasn't in alignment with them anymore. I wanted to start certain things that brought me more connection and felt more fulfilling. And so I made decisions from a place of this is what feels good and this is what freedom feels and looks like to me. And in that year, like my baby was really young. I wanted to spend the time with her versus, dancing on social media and doing launches. Not that either one is right or wrong. That just wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I didn't want to grow. And
Mm,
I think it can be one of those, it can be really hard. It can be very juxtaposed of like, well, if you know you can, why don't you? And I just kept asking myself, at what cost? Growth at what cost? Why
oh,
am I chasing this goal? Does it really matter to me more than what my actual priorities are? And the answer was no. And I'm in a different season now, and that's great. But my goals reflect the season that I'm in, not what society expects of me, which again, I think comes back to confidence because I didn't have that confidence a few years ago. If I didn't grow that year, I'd make it mean something about me
mm.
versus allowing it to be a reflection of exactly what I want and really owning that.
Where did you find and create and cultivate this confidence? Because I love the way you show up. I love the way you lead. You're so confident in any room and you put yourself in super high level rooms. Where did this confidence come from?
I mean, I talk about it all the time, but motherhood changed everything for me. It changed everything about who I was. Beforehand, I was the person chasing the hungry ghost. I was the person setting these arbitrary growth goals. I was the person that did have FOMO. I wanted to be in all the rooms. I wanted to be liked. Like most people, I just was doing all these things that I thought I should be doing to be successful, to be respected, to be liked. Becoming a mother just had me come home to myself. Like I had a very, very rough postpartum period. And I feel like I shed every layer that I had on me. And I like was really shook to my core. And I had to ask myself a lot of serious questions. Who am I? What do I care about? What really matters to me? And in doing that, I lost some relationships in my life that were really, really important to me. And that
Mm,
was really hard. And coming on the other side of that, I feel like I built confidence because I really think confidence comes from having trust in ourselves. And so I made some decisions that felt in alignment with me, that felt really, really challenging. And on the other side of them, I was happier. I was more in
mm.
alignment with myself. And so I was trusting those decisions I'd made in myself. I was trusting myself more and more. And I feel like I just got to a point in my life where I realized I'm very happy with who I am, how I show up. You know, my integrity is really high and I trust myself in that. I know that I show up really well as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, as a colleague. I know I show up really well and I trust myself to do that. And so if that doesn't align with someone else, I don't make it mean something about me anymore because I've been there and I've ended up showing up in relationships in ways that were really out of alignment with me. And it felt like I was neglecting myself and like cheating on myself. And that doesn't feel good. And that's not a good way to build confidence. So now I know the value that I bring. I know that I bring integrity. And I feel like you're either in with me, you're in that with me, or you're not. And I'm not going to allow myself to have FOMO of, oh, if I just showed up a little bit differently, that person might have liked me and I might have got invited on that trip. I don't give a fuck because, quite frankly,
I
I'd
love
rather
you.
be at home with my family, right? Like I'm not having FOMO for these rooms I'm not in because I'm exactly where I want to be and I'm making that conscious choice. So that's just the reality of it. Like I'm just not cheating on myself anymore.
Oh, wow. That just really was the cherry on top right there. I'm not cheating on myself anymore. Wow. I mean, if you could sum up right now your definition of success, I feel like all of that would be it. Just being true to you 100%.
100% having freedom of time in good health.
That's
That's
it.
success to me.
Mm,
And that means I'm spending my time with who I want, doing what I want, when I want, and I have the resources to be able to do it and do it in good health. I don't think there's anything better than that in life. And it doesn't mean that I want to sit around watching Housewives all day, maybe sometimes, but it means that I get to choose what I want to do. Do I want to go and spend the day at a toddler museum or do I want to
right.
sit and like crush a keynote? Like I get to choose, and that feels really good to me.
And the person listening right now who is just loving everything you're saying, and they're just not in that place right now. They're not in that place yet in their business where they have to me, that's luxury. Having choice is the definition of luxury, period. And someone who's listening that craves that so much, that's still in that building phase of like, this is my goal. My goal is Natalie's lifestyle. Like, that is exactly what I want as well. What is your message to them?
You have to be really, really clear on what you're willing to sacrifice to get there and have that honest conversation with yourself because you can get there as slow or as quickly as you want based on what you're willing to sacrifice. That's part of the conversation. Another part of this conversation is knowing when enough is good enough. When
Yes.
is enough good enough and in what season? Because if you're in a season where you're saying like spending time with your kids feels like an absolute luxury, you might have that really honest conversation with yourself and say, you know what? In these next 3 years, it's okay if I don't grow, but this number is good enough for me. And so this is what I'm willing to sacrifice and this is what I'm not. And then after maybe these 3 years, I'm going to go at it again in a different way, in a different season. So I think it's those honest conversations that will support you in being able to decide how you're going to show up and what that looks like. Because you're right, it's a total luxury. And I would be completely lying if I said it didn't take some sacrifice to get here. Like you and I have talked about it, but I think we get to marry the masculine and the feminine in business. And I don't think this is talked about enough. We hear a lot on one side or a lot on the other side. We hear, the manifesting side of it. You've got to be in the energy, the frequency to call it in. Or we hear you've got to have the system structure, really, really go hard at it and sacrifice. I think it's about marrying the two of them. And
Mm-hmm.
that comes from real honesty around, okay, what is it that I want and what am I calling in? And what am I willing to do to create the structure to make that happen? And then I think you'll come up with a plan that really, really works for you. And it's okay if you grow on your own timeline. It's okay if you're not growing as fast as people you're seeing on Instagram, if you're enjoying the process and you're enjoying it while you're doing it.
That is absolutely gold. I say that something similar a lot, which is to really remind yourself that you're already living your dream life. If you have the opportunity every day to build your business, to go towards your dreams, all of your dreams are already coming true. And if you can start to be in that energy now and really honor that energy now, you'll manifest it faster. Did you know when you were building Boss Babe that you were quantum leaping?
I had a sense. I definitely had a sense. Like it just felt right. Everything felt right. And it felt like it didn't, by it felt right. It didn't feel easy, but it just felt like I was on the right path.
Mhm.
And then very quickly, I started to realize, okay, this is growing even faster than I had imagined. And that was really, really clear to me of like, oh shit, you're going to have to really do your own inner work as well as all this external work to be able to meet your business where it needs to meet you. So there was definitely a sense of like, this isn't easy, but it feels right and it feels in flow. Okay, it's going faster, it's going faster. So, yes. And I feel like anytime you look back on it, you're like, oh my God, I was like in a complete whirlwind. I didn't even realize what was happening so fast.
Totally. That's amazing. And when you're in that mode, whether it was now or then, more so now, I would say, like, how often are you leaning into manifestation, your intuition versus funnels and strategy? Because I know you're a freaking genius and totally nerd on that stuff because we nerd out on that together. What do what do you lean into more?
I would say it's pretty 50-50. So before I start anything, I always write down what my outcome, my desired outcome is going to be.
Mhm.
And I very much try and surrender to that process. So with hiring, for example, I often write down who my dream hires would be. And then I trust that if I show up at that frequency, those people are going to come into my business. And that honestly works every time.
Yes.
So there's less process with that. But then when it comes to something like sales, it's a real mix because sales is the lifeblood of anyone's business. Sales and revenue, it's the only thing you're like if your business it doesn't exist if it doesn't have it. So I like to really set myself up for the most success there so that I know if I get into that frequency and I manifest this outcome, I have got that masculine structure set up to make it
Mhm.
happen. Sometimes even if you might be manifesting a certain revenue level. If you take a real look at your business and you ask yourself the question, well, okay, I'm calling in 100 clients. But if I get really honest, I couldn't even support 100 clients right now.
Right.
So we have to, I think, balance the two so that you say to yourself, oh, well, if I'm going to call in this many leads, is there even a place for them to go? Is there a place for them to buy? And could I even support them through it? So it's really a mix. So I get super, super clear on the outcomes and what I want to create. And I bring a lot of that strategy and structure to make sure that, yes, if I'm calling in this many people to my world, I'm doing the most to help
Mm-hmm.
them move through that funnel and join something that is going to work for them, and then they have a great experience doing it. And I think that's the responsibility we have as business owners, is get in the frequency, but then also create that structure to have an amazing sales process and delivery process.
You said it so well before that most people don't realize that it does take both the feminine and the masculine. And I feel like the manifestation and the strategy is that it's really laid out so well. When you look back, do you look back and say, whoa, I was really stuck in my masculine, or whoa, I was really leaning in towards my feminine as you grew? And then you had to get more into the feminine energy and intuitive energy? Or what was the kind of, how do you reflect on that for yourself?
I reflect back and think each season required more or less of different parts of me. Like
Mm,
there was, when I look back and look at when the business was scaling really, really quickly, honestly, it required me to be a lot more in my masculine. So I'm like, okay, we are bringing in so many clients right now. I need to create the best structure around this so that I can deliver excellence to these clients. That's
mhm.
going to require me to be very structured. That's going to require me to be very disciplined and to, like, yes, create, which I think is a feminine quality, to create really great curriculum, create really good experience, but hold it in a solid container. Or if I look at other times in the business where we may have been growing outwardly more on social and our audience was getting bigger and bigger, that required me to tap more into my feminine, into my creativity a little bit more, to be a bit more magnetic when I'm showing up. So I don't think any season is ever 50-50. It's always, what does my business need from me right now? What do I need from me right now to create the lifestyle and the outcome that I want? And then how can I kind of flow between the two, not making it mean anything, and be able to allow that? I think is really important.
I've never heard it kind of laid out like that, where it's like this season I'm in this vibe, and then it might require me to shift into the other vibe. I mean, that makes so much sense to kind of use what you need, those resources to move forward. What season are you in this moment?
I would say I'm in more of my feminine in this season because I'm more in a place right now where I'm leading my team, and I'm leading my team to deliver certain outcomes. And I generally lead from more of a feminine place. And that's the kind of culture that I want to create at Boss Babe, is leading from that place. So I would say it's requiring more of that. It's requiring a part of me that is more empathetic, more deeply connected to the people in my business, really able to hold space and listen and understand how they're feeling and how I can help them get the most out of it. And they're really holding that structure for themselves. Um, and I'm sure in a couple of months it's probably going to change as we start to move into different launches and getting new programs off the ground. I'm sure I'll flip a little bit to the other side.
Mm,
Um, but you're right. I don't think a lot of people talk about it, and I think there can be a bit of shaming going on online, honestly, which really pisses me off. Of like, oh, you're way too in your masculine. Well, yeah, and I wouldn't have created the results that I had if I wasn't. Or you're way too in your feminine. Well, yeah, I wouldn't be getting the results I was if I wasn't. I think some people like to preach that there's this textbook way of being, and I think it's complete bullshit. We're all very, very different, and we all show up very different, and every season needs a lot of different parts of us to show up. So I
mhm.
just don't believe in like shaming anyone for being in either side, as long as it's intentional and they're not falling into like a wounded place on either side. I don't think that's productive, really.
So well said. And I feel like, people start their business and they need to cultivate that masculine energy within themselves. And they're like, oh, I'm a little bit burnt out. I need to soften. And they naturally learn that process within themselves. And it is part of growth and evolution. I'm curious, when you talk about these transitions and the seasons that you're in and being more in your feminine and more in your masculine at certain times and pulling on this, in the most recent of seasons of transition that you just went through, becoming a mom and transitioning the company and all of that, like you said, you trust yourself more than ever. But I'm curious if there was what's like the biggest piece of doubt or insecurity that you had to let go of in all of that? What was the biggest? I call it the dick, the deepest inner critic.
um, oh my God, I can totally share this. I had this huge, huge fear that when I bought Danielle out of the company and announced it, people wouldn't want to stay in our membership in our community because she wasn't there anymore. I had this such a big fear. I remember even the day that we made the announcement, which was, for many of the reasons, it was a long time after the departure and buyout had actually happened. We made that announcement, and I remember just feeling sick to my stomach of what if I'm just going to end up with an influx of cancellations? What if my entire business is going to disappear overnight after I've just really stretched myself to do a buyout to build something that's in alignment? What if it just disappears overnight? And that was really scary. And it's like, I could talk myself around it either way logically, but you feel how you feel. And there was no way I was really going to know the answer until I just ripped the band-aid off and did it.
Wow, that's really vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like that's huge for people to hear. And it makes you face yourself. You're like, okay, so let's go there. What
Mm-hmm.
if that actually happened? You had to get really flat with that. What if that was the reality? What did you come to if that actually did happen?
Would I be okay? And the
Yeah.
answer is yes. So I was like, okay, then we do it. We just try it. Like, who knows? I think it comes back to that trust. Do I trust myself to rebuild from zero? Yeah, I do. And I know I can. And if that was the reality and I got that rejection from that many people, like, would I still like myself? And the answer is yes. I know I've shown up fully authentically in my truth. And that's all I can ask of myself. So if
Mhm.
I got that rejection, then I would be okay with it. And thankfully, that didn't happen. But I would have just faced off with it. And I think the more you resist it, probably the worse it builds up in your head. And I was just very much like, yeah, this would absolutely suck. And I would definitely be upset and I would still be okay.
Yeah, you still would be. And what were there any tangible things that you did during those moments to regulate your nervous system, like actual practices that you used at all to help you move through that?
Not really. It was just a bit of a shit show of a time, to be honest.
Love
um, the biggest thing that I did was I just stopped resisting all of the feelings I was having. Like
it.
every day I was feeling something different. And I went through every range of emotion you could possibly go through. And every single day I would just try and meet myself at that emotion because I would realize the more I tried to talk myself out of it logically, you shouldn't be feeling like this because of, or let go of, like it was making it worse and worse and worse. So every day I was just very much at like, okay, God, I'm trusting you that this is meant to happen this way. And I'm trusting that there's going to be, the highest outcome for me. And this is what I have to go through. So let's do it. Every day there was something new. And I was just really willing to meet myself where I was at in it. And I mean, generally, I take care of myself. Like I eat really well. I work out. I have great boundaries. I spend a lot of really present time with my family. I connect with friends on a deep level, like really sharing honestly where I'm at and how I'm feeling. Like I do all the things, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it made it easier. It was just a really hard time.
Yeah, that's so fair. And I mean, even in everything you shared, what I'm really hearing is your practice was feeling. Your
Mm-hmm.
practice was actually allowing yourself to feel the feelings, not resisting them, and actually letting them process through your being moment by moment. And I think that's so valuable because there's so many feelings that come up any given day, no matter who you are, what you go through. And it's just permission to feel them, to move through them instead of resist, because what we resist persists. So that's huge.
Totally.
What do you think are the biggest blocks you see women making in their businesses right now, or biggest mistakes that they're making in their businesses currently?
Definitely giving up too early. So I work with a lot of women on implementing a lot of systems and funnels and those things in their businesses. And a lot of the times when they come to me, they'll say, well, I tried that and it didn't work. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
tell me about it. Well, I did a webinar once and it didn't work. Oh, you did it one time and it didn't work. No surprises there. Like people give up way too early. Or, yeah, I tried selling that and no one bought it. Oh, you
Mhm.
tried once and no one bought it. Like, I think people think that results are instant sometimes. And if it doesn't work right away, then it's a bad idea or it's never going to work or you're not cut out for it. And I just don't buy into that. Everything takes skill and it takes time and it takes refinement. And we don't just hit it out the park every single time with every single idea. And so a lot of the time, something that they're like, no, I'm done with this. I need something brand new. I'm like, well, let's take a look at it. Is there a way that we could do this in a way that might work? Could we
Yeah,
change the positioning, the pricing, the way that you're doing? Can we change it a little bit? Can we research some of the best methods? And a lot of the times things end up really turning around for them and they didn't need to burn down their businesses. They needed to just like go more all in. Like they were just like unwilling to really go all in. I think the fear of like, what if I do go all in on this and it doesn't work? So that's a really, really big one that I see.
that's huge.
Um, yeah, and it's again, it's really easy to have your confidence knocked and decide that thing is not for you and you're going to do it a different way. Really, really easy. But like, if you're like, okay, you know what, I'm going to like give it everything I've got and I'm going to be willing to try and I'm going to like ask for feedback and I'm going to be vulnerable with it. Like, okay, it can end up working tremendously well. Like we all start somewhere with something and having that beginner's mindset, I think is really, really powerful.
Mm.
Um, and then another one, I think this goes for men and women, but a lack of resourcefulness. People hate when I say this, but
Oh,
it's
huge.
true. Yeah, if you're not going to be resourceful, it's not going to work. It's as simple as that. Like a lack of resourcefulness drives me nuts. Like it's as simple as asking questions that are very easily Googleable. It's like,
Yes.
okay, how resourceful are you being, or how much are you playing into like the helplessness? Oh, I have no idea. Can you help me? I don't know. Like, you need to help yourself to accept help from others as well. So, like, be willing to bring your 50%. And there's like, that's the kind of thing you can't give someone resourcefulness. They either need to decide they're going to be resourceful or not. Like, you and I both know, yes, we have had a lot of support in our businesses, but ultimately, the thing that's made us successful in executing is being resourceful. Like,
So true.
no one's going to have the answer for everything.
Yeah, that was a huge breakthrough I actually had at our first mastermind retreat for CEO Mama was I'm the one I'm waiting for. It's me. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. And it was just like, it was clear as day. And I had a huge breakthrough and a huge cry and a huge release around it. But I think that also speaks to the energetic piece where if you are focusing on what's not working in your business and you're like, I don't know why it's not working, and you're dwelling on it, I'm not making sales, I'm not even, and you're just going in this complaint circle, where is your energy pointed in that moment? You're pointed on what's not working, what you're not having, what's not abundant in your reality, as opposed to digging deep. Go make it happen. Figure it out. Do it a different way, right? Your success is inevitable if you say it is. I really believe that.
I completely agree because you're going to do what it takes to make it inevitable.
Totally. You're going
Yeah,
to do what
same
it takes
page.
to make it inevitable. Yeah, same page. We definitely have a very similar value of excellence for
Hmm.
sure. And just like executing and figuring it out. And I think that kind of goes into my next question for you, which is when things don't go as planned for you, which has 100% happened, right? Even in most recent times, how do you, what is like the resource that you pull on within yourself? How do you recover so fast?
Yeah, I mean, I just accept that it's inevitable. And I feel like if everything's going my way, I'm probably not taking enough risks. So
Ooh,
yeah,
Natalie, can you
it's
just say
very
that again for the
inevitable.
people in the back?
Yeah, if everything's going your way, you're not taking enough risks.
Oh my God.
So I just accept it. And then I really, you know, go in and dive in. Okay, what about it didn't work? Was it just totally like not the right thing to do? Or was it not communicated in the right way? Or like, what did I miss here? And just have that honest conversation, take a look at it. And sometimes I might want to do something in a different way. Sometimes I might want to pivot and go in a different direction. But being able to like just ask those questions. But it really is, it's going to happen. Like you cannot expect that every single thing is going to be a swinging success every single time, as much as we want that to happen. So just
There's a lot
life.
of
And I
songs about this, guys. There's a lot of songs
totally,
about this. Pick yourself
I
up and
also
try
like,
again.
I don't know if this is a British, I think this might be a British phrase, but we say it's just water off a duck's back. And so it
Oh,
just like slides off you. But like, I don't take things personally. I don't let it get me down. Like, it very much is water off a duck's back. I'm like, cool, on to the next. Like, I'm not, sometimes I think people expect that there's some big emotional reaction from me, and I'm just not going to give it. Like, it's not there. It's not that deep. Like, am I healthy? Am I happy? Is my family healthy and happy?
yeah.
Cool, moving on. Like, everything's all good. And that's kind of the mindset I've always had with business. I really don't allow certain things to like fully take over my life and fully take over my mood. I'm just not interested.
So good. I feel like I similarly do something where I just kind of gamify it. I gamify it like this is fun. I get to do this and like I get to invest here and move this piece around and put this there and try that. And it doesn't it doesn't land as serious for me when I do that. And it's not the end all be all.
No. It's like, do you trust yourself to go again? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go.
Yeah, totally. I think the one thing you might take personally is when Noemi says no to you when you want to change her diaper.
Oh my God.
I don't
She
know if
says
that's
no to
water
me.
off a duck's back.
Oh my God, 100 times a day. Oh, even, can I have a hug? No. I'm like, okay.
When she says no to you, it's personal. Just kidding.
Oh my God. I feel like she says no 90% of the time. Like, oh my God, you really are my daughter. Okay.
She's learning boundaries. It's funny because I'm at that stage with Maverick where he hasn't learned no yet, and I'm just
Oh,
soaking it in. But when something's a no, it's in his body, and he's just like, "You're not changing me. This is
yeah.
gonna
Oh,
be hard."
they don't even need to verbalize it.
Oh yeah.
No, that's not happening. Okay. Moving
Okay.
on.
Yeah. Moving on. It's so funny.
And I do feel like also with kids, like if you don't make that big of a deal of it and you just move on, that like they don't make a big deal of it either. They're like,
So
okay,
true.
moving along. What's next?
Yeah, and that's a universal lesson too, because when shit hits the fan, you don't make a big deal of it. You feel your emotions, you process. Universe is like, all right, cool, on to the next.
I know,
Moving
it's so
right
funny.
along.
I learned this lesson off Steven last week. He he's so hilarious. He was like, Noemi's just in her phase of like no, everything is a no, like everything's on her own terms. And he was like, okay, I did some research on how to negotiate with toddlers. Okay, amazing. Love that. Tell me what you learned. And he said, so if I ask her to do something like, Noemi, can we walk over here? And she says no, I need to not double down on the thing she doesn't want to do, but I need to present her with something she does want to do. And so I'll say, oh, do you want to come look at this? And she's like, yes. And it's such a good life lesson too of like, let's not focus on the things that aren't working and let's focus on the things that actually feel good and we do want to do. And I
Mhm.
like literally love that he was Googling how to negotiate with a toddler.
Oh my God, I admire him for doing that. Also, very resourceful. Google it, right?
Right.
Resourceful
Yeah.
AF. So true.
So true.
I find that motherhood has so many parallels and metaphors for life and business. Like it's all connected. And that is actually something that when I enrolled in CEO Mama to work with you and be in this community, I was just very focused on business, 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 business. But it is really about life. It's about the full picture. And after I kind of put those pieces in place of like, okay, I get to feel really good in all areas, in business, in motherhood, in free time, and taking care of myself. And really, we outlined like all those different areas of life and got really clear on what matters the most, as you were saying before. Everything shifted for me personally because I was so focused on just one aspect. But when your personal life is balanced, feels more balanced and feels whole and complete, business feels different. And the way you show up feels different. It's all so intimately connected. And I knew it, but it wasn't embodied. Does that make
Mm,
sense?
that makes so much sense. Like when you pour from overflow, it
Yeah.
feels really different. And I feel like, especially in early motherhood, I mean, it feels impossible to pour from overflow. You're like, holy
Mm.
shit, like I'm clinging on to everything. Like I'm fully not in overflow. I am
I'm
like
in
empty.
survival.
I'm in survival. My cup is empty. And it takes some time. It's like putting those building blocks in place. I'm a big believer that you can set things up in a way where you can pour from overflow. And it doesn't mean you need a 25-step routine in the morning. It's actually the small things and the way in which you build all of those things together that make the biggest difference. Because I also, before I became a mother, I was that like extravagant morning routine person, and then I became a mother and I'm like, this probably isn't my life anymore unless I want to get up in the middle of the night to get started. But you start to learn it's the way you set up all facets of your life. That's what makes you, that's what puts you in a place of overflow. And that's been such a huge lesson for me as well. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're talking about too.
Yeah, totally. And I know that you have so many good tools and systems for simplification and organization in your life. Can you kind of give us an overview of how, tell us how we can simplify our lives in 5 seconds? I guess just an overview on the way that you view organization and simplicity.
Okay, let's talk simplicity then. I just did a podcast episode on this. So I was like fully like having a rant about it because I feel like so often we don't have simplicity because we do so many things out of obligation. When
Oh,
you really examine your calendar, when you examine the reason you feel anxious, when you examine all the never-ending to-do items on your list, so much of that is out of obligation, not actually out of alignment. And that is a really good place to start. Like,
yes.
let's start with all of the social things you keep saying yes to. Are you going to these things because they actually fill you up and allow you to be in that place of overflow? Or with every one of these that you go to, are you getting more and more depleted? Okay,
Mm,
let's have a conversation about it. You know, we all know the feeling of having like 10 missed calls, 10 voice notes to listen to, 5 texts to
million text
reply to. Like,
messages. Yeah.
oh my God. And you can get in this place of like, oh my God, I'm a bad friend. I should be on top of this. I'm so behind on everything. Okay, well, what if you took that expectation on yourself and decided once a week, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to reply to all of them, and I'm going to be present when I'm doing it. I'm going to sit down and reply to all of them. Yes, if something quickly comes in, I can quickly respond, great. But otherwise, I'm going to do it once a week, and people are going to start to expect it from me once a week. What if I did it that way? Um, Even with your business, there's so many ways that you could look at taking away certain things that actually aren't adding to your fulfillment or your bottom line or anything like that. You can, but it takes that honest conversation. So that's the way that I generally look at it. And anytime that
Love
I
that.
am feeling overwhelmed, I really have to pause and look at that obligation piece and look at why am I doing this? Is this part really necessary? How much of it can I take off and replace with stuff that I want to be doing? And
Mm.
whenever I do that, I feel a lot better.
I think that that speaks to the refinement piece you were talking about earlier too, because refinement isn't just about your offers and your delivery and all of that, your products. It's also about refinement of your schedule and your fulfillment. That's huge. And I think that when you become a CEO, like when I first started, I kind of got into this rhythm of forgetting that I was the boss, forgetting that I was the one in charge. And if you are in that place right now listening to this, this is a great reminder for you. Like you get to decide. You don't have to do something out of obligation or because you think it will grow your business. And if you have that mindset, like you had talked about earlier, old Natalie might have done that. And if it's not really fulfilling you or in true alignment, it's not going to make a difference, I don't think.
Oh, such a good reminder. Like the deadlines that you're stressing about, you're the one
Ah,
setting the deadlines.
you're the one.
What if
Yeah.
we moved it? What if we didn't have to do that on that timeline? Move it. You're the boss.
I think a lot of people put pressure on money, like making money, which is totally understandable. And it's a huge part of life and we need money and all of that. Can you speak to that a little bit? How do you alleviate the pressure of needing to make money? Obviously, you're in a different season now than maybe when you felt that pressure in the past, but maybe you can speak to your journey on that.
Totally. So let me just get comfortable. Totally. So I can speak to it from like a practical standpoint first of when you are running a business, if you have team members and you have expenses, you really need to know what's your break even point every single month. And then what's the feel good point every month of like, okay, here's what I need to do to feel good. Here's what I need to do to break even. Here's what I need to hit to feel good, to get my take home where I want it to be, to have buffer in the business. And so really understanding those numbers is really, really important.
Mm.
And then with the essential, like here's what's break even, setting up as much recurring revenue as possible, I think is really important, because when you can take the stress out of hitting those break even numbers, that's when you can build a business that feels good and feels more freeing. And then you'll have certain months where you're feeling super abundant because things are going really, really well. And you're like, amazing, I'm taking home way more than I expected. And you'll also
Mm.
have some months where you're like, okay, we broke even, I'm not in the deficit, and I didn't really take out what I wanted to. Where could I make some shifts there? I think that's really important. So having a good understanding of your P&L, not being afraid of the numbers, even if you're not a numbers person, learning how to be, I think is really important. When you're really scared of money, you repel money. So immerse yourself in that
Yes.
P&L, immerse yourself in that cash flow forecast, and develop an understanding around it. And then we all know it's something you teach so much, but you have to work on your money mindset. So
Mm.
much of us have, so many of us have these self-imposed upper limits that we put on ourselves when it comes to income.
For
And
sure.
it's so subconscious that we're not even working through it because we don't know that it exists. That's a really, really big part of it as well. And that's the work I'm constantly doing on myself. I love doing courses and reading books about money. I'm very open about the fact I love money. Like I do
I
not have
love that
any,
you love it. You speak so openly
yeah,
about it.
so
Yeah.
openly. I love money. I love talking about what I earn because I want it to help others to like have that reference point as well. I love it when other people talk about what they earn because I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to do that. Like, I love it. And I don't have any shame around that. I think money helps you do amazing things in the world. Money helps you amplify
Mm.
more of the goodness. But I still do a lot of work on around it because I'm like, okay, where are my subconscious blocks that I'm unaware of? What am I thinking about that next revenue level I want to hit? Like, what are my beliefs around it? And I think that I don't know if that work ever stops. I don't know.
It definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't. What do you feel like is your upper limit right now?
So I would really, really love my business to continue growing completely without me. And that is such an upper limit. Like, I know I want it, but I don't fully see how it's going to grow without me. I know it can sustain without me now. It couldn't last year. I know it can sustain without me now, but I don't know how it's going to grow without me. And that's a limit that I'm doing work on. And then practically, like, I'm having to look into like, what would it really take? And that would feel
Yeah.
really good. Like, I'd love to step out for a while and have some more babies and like have this brand continue to grow. That would feel amazing.
That's really powerful and inspiring to hear. So people listening, they're looking at you, they're looking at me, and they're like, whoa, you run these major companies and you have a family and you have a baby and you want to have more babies. How the F do you do it? Like, I mean, I put a question box for people to ask you questions, and that was one of them. Like, how do you do it?
Great question. I mean, I think we're all figuring it out as we go along, aren't we? Like,
Amen.
I have really good routines. I know
Support.
when I'm like fully present as a mother, and I know when I'm fully in as a business owner. And I feel like every season is just demanding something else of me. I prioritize my priorities. I'm super clear on what they are, and I prioritize them above everything else. And that helps me feel like I'm doing the right thing. But I don't know if I have like an answer of how are we doing it all, because I honestly feel like every single person's different. Everyone's trying their best. And I don't know about you, but it feels like with every milestone that we hit as well, like it demands a different version of me and a different level of presence. And I'm like still figuring it out. I don't know what it's going to look like having multiple babies as well. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know.
I'll report back.
I think actually the better question after hearing you speak about it to ask yourself listening if this is something that you aspire to have is how can I continue to expand my capacity on a daily basis? Right? Because that ultimately it's like we adapt to new capacities all the time, every day. So it's almost like, what are those risks that you want to take? How can you expand your edges and keep expanding in that way so that you can expand your capacity? Because I feel like the capacity piece for me has been huge.
Oh, that's so well said. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think you really surprise yourself too at how much your capacity can expand. Like if you had told me before I had Noemi that I would have this level of capacity, I'd be like, how? I'm already at capacity, but you do expand.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
you do. And I think that's a good reminder for us wanting to have more babies. We will be able to expand in the same way
Yeah,
that we already did.
that's a really good reminder. I needed that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
having a breakthrough right now.
Same. You're coaching me right now.
Um, so good. Something else that came through the question box to ask you was, you know, you are front facing for a lot of things, such as you do one-on-ones, you do intensives, you show up weekly for our calls, you have your society calls, like you have things that you require you. And I'm assuming you've set it up where you want to be on all of those calls, obviously, and want to be in support in that way. And how do you balance that with everything else that you have running in the business? Because there's so much going on. And I feel like people at your level typically don't do as much face to face, high touch as you do.
Hmm. Yeah. So I feel like anyone that's maybe doing less of that is doing more of something else. So
Okay.
I'm just really, really clear on where I want to spend my time and what I want to do. And I honestly just hire accordingly. So I don't build my org chart based on what I think it should look like. I don't hire for roles that I think I should have. I really take a look at what are the things that need done? What are the things I want to do and spend my time on? How can I hire for everything else? So I feel like everyone's organizational chart in their business is it's gonna look different. It's gonna reflect what their strengths are and desires are as a CEO. And
Mm,
so I'm just really, really good at hiring and training people to do the other things. So there's a lot of things that maybe other CEOs are doing that I'm not doing because I'm showing up more FaceTime. Like I absolutely love that part of my business. There's a exercise, I think it's a traction exercise called delegate and elevate. And it's just
okay.
constantly about elevating in your role and delegating what you no longer want to do or don't have capacity to do because you're doing things that you know would support your business's growth and would feel really fulfilling to you. That's something that I do really, really regularly. And I think I'm pretty good at holding people accountable to doing what they say they're going to do so that things do get done in the business. Now, I'm good at that now. I didn't used to
Now,
be. Yeah,
because you a boss babe.
now.
Now, the real boss babe. Okay, another question that came through is how does Natalie do daily life? Like, what is your day to day like? What are you working on in any given day? The nitty gritty, small details, whatever you want to share.
Like personal or like business?
Um, Kind of like run us through a day of work and personal.
Okay. I honestly have like a really basic life. I will say I'm traveling a lot right now. I'm traveling most
Oh,
weeks.
and balancing travel. That was something else that came up.
Yeah, okay. So like on a daily basis when I'm not traveling, I normally wake up at like 6:30 and I'm just like full mum mode.
Yep.
We all have breakfast together as a family. I have the same breakfast every single day. Like I don't change a lot of variables. I keep
What do you
things.
eat? What's your breakfast?
I have scrambled eggs with cottage cheese and sausage. Like I love a really high protein breakfast. It makes me feel really good. Then I have warm lemon water with electrolytes and hydrogen. I love it. It makes me feel really good. I take my supplements. Like, this is my breakfast. It's great. So we do the same thing every single day. And then I'm just like playing with Noemi. My mornings are very, very much just present with her. Then on days I'm working out, I'll go work out, shower, get ready for work. If I'm not working out, shower, get ready. I normally listen to a podcast when I'm getting ready or listen to some kind of affirmation or something just to like, get me in the right headspace. And then every day is themed. So every day I do something different. So I have days where it's full white space and I'm
Mm.
just creating, I'm working on whatever I need to work on in the business. Or I
Are
have
those
days where I'm doing
microdosing days?
I would like microdose on all like alternating days. So even if I'm having meeting days or podcasting days, I might still microdose. It just depends, like, okay, what kind of mood do I want to be in today? Am I like, if I'm in Zooms back to back all day long, I probably won't microdose. I just don't love the feeling of that. Whereas
Yeah.
if I'm having like expansive conversations or if I'm podcasting or I'm creating, I probably would. So I
Cool.
like flow in and out of that. I have days where it's just full internal meetings and then days where it's coaching or podcasting. Um, And then even like I always finish work by 4. Always. My nanny finishes at 4 as well. So I finish work by 4 and then I'm just full mum mode. We normally go outside, we do something outside, play, cook dinner together, eat, and then I wind down really, really early. Noemi normally goes to bed like 6:37 and I do not work. Like after 4 p.m. I do not work. So I normally make myself like a really nice magnesium elixir. I read a book, I watch TV, I just fully switch off. I connect with Steven, bed early, get a lot of sleep, love my sleep. So that's like a general, like boring day to
Love
day,
it.
like nothing special. Then with travel, because I'm traveling a lot right now, I try to be like be away the minimal amount of time and do the most while I'm away. So, for example, my travel this week, I literally fly at 7 a.m. So I have the nighttime with Noemi. I wake up really early. I fly out that day. I get to LA by like 9 or 10. I'm in meetings, podcasts, and events like till late all day long. I wake up, I'll keynote the next morning, then I'll be on a flight by noon and I'll be home by bedtime. So I try and just fit the most in and just, I do feel like my day to day lifestyle really supports those short bursts of high energy because I
Mm,
generally am really well rested. I eat really, really well. I have all of the nutrition that I know I need. I take care of my body. Like I do all the things so that when there is like that 48-hour window, I feel fine doing it and I come back and I don't feel depleted. If I wasn't taking care of myself and I was doing that kind of thing, I think that would be challenging. But
mm.
the space that I'm in right now, I don't want to be away a long time. Um, so yeah, that's just what works for me right now.
That's so helpful to hear and so inspiring to hear. And it's really, I mean, it makes sense. And you're describing your day and I'm like, dream life. Like that's the life that I live too. And it feels so fucking good. And it's
It feels
like,
good. Yeah. Like who would have
yeah,
thought the basic life would be the best life?
exactly. I mean, wow, it's actually mind-blowing. And in all of that, another question I got before we wrap is just how do you balance having like incredible friends, tight friends, saying no, prioritizing your family, and travel, all of that? Like, how do you keep up with it all?
I just have different seasons where I'm prioritizing different things. So right now, like I actually did see my friends for quite a long time at the weekend and last night, but I felt like I had space to be able to do that. Right
Mhm.
now, I am focused on work, my marriage, and motherhood. Those are the 3 buckets that take up the majority of my time. And I will then spend time on other things from a place of overflow if I have capacity. But the other things are the first things to be taken off my calendar in this kind of season.
Yeah.
Then in like a month or so, I'll pivot into a different season where I'll be more outgoing, I'll be working a little bit less. So I kind of just prioritize 3 to 4 things at once. And
Mhm.
then anything else, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it if I feel like I have the capacity, but I'm not going to feel guilty for not doing it. I think it helps to just like have friends that also run their lives like that, that have full lives, that have their own things going on, aren't going to take it personally if you're like, oh, I don't want to, like, I can't come around tonight or I can't make that, like, I'm focusing on me or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's really helpful.
Friends that understand human design, you're like, that just feels like a no in my sacral right now. So thanks for
The
understanding. You know, like
dream, the literal
the
dream.
dream. Like I have been MIA. I have so many different friend groups, and I've been MIA and like my core best friends from like childhood. And they're like, Ashley, where are you? And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I am in such a summer season right now. And they don't necessarily speak that same language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm busy AF right now. Okay. I love you all.
Yeah.
And I will come back as soon as I can. Like I had to say I couldn't go on a trip in the next couple months because it's just such a summer season. I'm in full swing. And yeah, so
And I think that's
I
great. Making those choices feels so good. You're like, yeah, I won't have FOMO because I'll be here doing the thing I want to be doing right now. And that feels really good.
think you nailed it with prioritizing three of the most important things and really going all in those buckets, and everything else can wait.
Amen, sister.
Because we can have it all, but we can't do it all the time.
No, definitely not. And that's like the easiest way to burn out.
So true. I am so grateful that we had this conversation. This was so freaking awesome. So good. Thank you so much for your
My
energy, for your
pleasure.
time, for your just willingness to be so vulnerable and real.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I have to ask lastly, what makes you a badass manifester?
Clarity, knowing exactly what I want.
Mm, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Is there anything that you want to share? Where can people connect with you and learn from you, work with you? Anything you want to share, feel free to do so.
Yeah, the best place to find me is on Instagram at I am Natalie or the Boss Babe podcast. We release 2 episodes a week. And then if anyone wants to work with me on building a funnel, you can DM me the words fast track and I'll send you all the information on that.
Oh, and you definitely want to work with Natalie on building a funnel. I just
I
want to
love
say.
funnels.
I feel like I am like your star funnel student.
Oh my God. Yes, you are. And I would also say see your mama, but we're honestly going to be full till next year. So maybe get on the wait list for next year.
Get on the wait list for next year. Seriously. I just re-enrolled and I told Natalie she can't get rid of me. So
Here
I'm
for it.
excited.
Maybe they'll be with you next year as well.
Be with me next year. Yes, exactly. We'll just keep growing
We'll
and
keep
growing
doing
our
it.
bellies and our babies
I'm
all the
here
time.
for it. I love it. Thank you for
Natalie,
having me. This was so fun.
so fun. Thank you. How fire was that podcast episode? Oh my God. I am so excited. I told you at the beginning of the year I had some amazing guests in store and we're just getting started. I hope that you enjoyed that episode so much as I did, because I had so much fun recording that. And I know in the episode we had talked about my $1 million launch. And if you want to hear more about it, I actually did a launch debrief that will be launching on the Boss Babe podcast, where Natalie interviewed me and we kind of went over all the details. It was such a fun experience. I've never done anything like that. And if you're ready to uplevel your business and you are ready to build a profitable, predictable, freedom-based business, you should check out her Freedom Fast Track. Her Freedom Fast Track, it's an 8-week coaching program that has accountability built in, where she will literally be supporting you in building out one funnel for your business, all from your offer to your traffic to your buyers. Inside of Freedom Fast Track, you're going to get access to this live group coaching container with Natalie as your guide, which she literally doesn't do at this level. It's a really reasonable investment. She will give you personal reviews and audits on your funnel, a highly engaged community. I'm telling you, her communities are top notch. And the strategies behind creating the sales engine that will work for any business that needs customers. It'll help you build an effective funnel that will convert every single day. Seriously, she is the funnel queen. If you're ready to get insider tips and no fluff, like, she is going to support you every single step of the way, highly, highly recommend joining this program. I can't tell you enough how amazing I think it is. I'm actually one of the testimonials on her checkout page, all the way at the bottom, because I believe in it so much, and her strategies have really optimized my funnel, and I've changed my whole funnel because of her strategies. And she's giving you so many bonuses that are included in this amazing group coaching program that are going to help elevate you in so many ways. She has a sold out offer workshop, your one thing demystified, 8-figure webinar swipe files, plug and play email sequences, sales copy for your sales page, affiliate reach out scripts. There's just so much in there. And so if you know you're ready to dive into something like this, click the link below and join the Freedom Fast Track. That's what the program's called, and I think it's a genius name because that's exactly what it's going to help you do. Fast track your freedom. Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at ManifestWithAsh. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.